Good afternoon or good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Get Into Gear webinar this morning. This is Janine Smith, and it's really good to be with you once again. It's always the self-talk that carries on with us as the self-talk that we constantly are talking to ourselves. You know, every day we wake up as human beings, and if only we were machines, that we could be programmed to be just the same every day. That unfortunately we are human beings who don't always have that ability. So it's the constant self-talk. And even for myself, who have been working with entrepreneurs and probably entrepreneurial at heart, and constantly needing the self-talk. So it's good to be with everyone this morning. Welcome, welcome. So I'm going to spend some time with you this morning around the motivation of gearing up mentally every single day. Unfortunately, not being that machine. We really need to gear up and get ourselves mentally geared. So just welcome everybody. I saw everyone saying hello. It's really good to have you once again. So as you can see, I've prepared a nice presentation for us, and I just really, funny enough, from the last webinar we did in August, just showing how our lives are changing daily with the circumstances we find ourselves in South Africa and across the world with regards to the wonderful COVID-19, is that how things are changing. So even for me this morning, when I was preparing for our webinar and our time together, realized that things need to change, and from what we had yesterday is not the same that we need today. So I really want to talk to you about gearing up mentally and how we gear ourselves to adapt to change. And one of the important things is that motivation is our key driver to momentum, and how we need to make sure that we're constantly motivating ourselves in order to keep our teams motivated or our business partners motivated, as well as how we're developing that mental toughness, because it's the mental toughness that is going to enable us to adapt to the changing circumstances we find ourselves in daily. And what was known to us yesterday or even this morning is maybe not known to us even here at midday today. So I just thought, well, how about giving us some practical tools and some reminders about keeping us mentally tough? So one of the first things what we need to do is really focus on your fears. Focus on your fears. You probably think to me, Janine, you're crazy. But it's those fears that we have, and we all have fears, that derail us and throw us off course in the quest to develop the mental fitness. So another one I think is don't waste time on self-pity is the second one there. So another key component to mental toughness is the ability to be able to pick yourself up quickly and adapt and move quickly to the changing situations. It's no good beating yourself up, because it's going to delay us and it's going to affect us in terms of how we deliver and how we perform. The second thing is taking control of our emotional responses. So something happens, it throws us off course, we're lost, we don't know what to do. Once again, it's our emotional toughness and our emotional ability to say, hey, hold on, it's someone's thrown us a curveball, it's okay, we can adapt, we can change, and we can respond. And a wonderful story I read about this was the great inventor, Thomas Edison, who obviously he was the inventor of the light bulb, and he burned his factory down in one of his experiments. And instead of thinking how sorry he was for himself, he actually told the people to gather around because they're going to see the biggest fire they've ever seen in their life. And how quickly that changed everyone's and his own perception to what he'd been landed with. The second one is be prepared to change your mind. Often we're a little bit stubborn. We know our way in life. We've set a course. We have a strategy. We know what we want to do, but someone throws us that curveball, and it's our ability to change in that moment and to react positively and change our strategy, change our viewpoint is going to also contribute to us having that mental toughness that we so badly need. And finally, on this mental toughness is don't sweat the small stuff. I know it's a cliche and we have often heard it, but it's so important because sometimes we get, with all the information we get thrown at us daily, sometimes we lose focus. We lose focus and we get bogged down in the small things that detract us from being successful and performing. So it's so important that we don't sweat the small stuff. So I don't know if anyone has any questions on that particular point of developing mental fitness, and toughness. But I think for me to remember the 3 C's, if nothing else you remember today, is the 3 C's of mental toughness. It's control, having control of that situation. Having commitment, making sure that we're focused and we are showing that commitment to achieving. And finally, having the confidence to adapt and to react to any changing circumstance and anything that we're thrown daily with the confidence that we can do this. So important, the 3 C's. Okay. So, right. So are you challenged yet? So as entrepreneurs, success is never final. It's an ongoing quest to be the best, to succeed, to make sure we survive in this time, to make sure that our businesses survive in these perilous times and also challenging times. And it's difficult because we hear the social media sending us all this information about long-standing businesses closing down. We hear and we see bad news all around us. So how do we take charge and take control, the other big C, of remaining positive? So a couple of points I thought always good for us to remember is remember your purpose, why you get up every morning. And why do you keep going? So I see someone has thrown a question at me. So this is the mental toughness. I find that I know what I need to think and do, but sometimes I'm so overwhelmed by the negativity and fear. How do we filter this practically? So thank you, Janet, for that question, because I think this really takes me first to that remember your purpose. And I will deal with it as we go through this webinar this morning, because it's so important to remain focused and also to find a way of being able to declutter our minds and remain focused. And how we do this is some of the tools I'm going to present to us. But if I can quickly answer it, is to have a plan. Because if we have a plan and we know what we want to achieve and we stick to that plan, it will help us control some of the negativity and fear that is around us. So moving on is also remember to your purpose, change your focus. What might have worked yesterday and might have overwhelmed us yesterday, it's pointless carrying on the same course. Maybe we do need to just tweak it, or we need to change our focus so that we can also remain in control. The biggest thing here for me is feeling that you're in control. Because when you're in control of something, you feel that you have it, you've got it, and you can cope with it. Secondly is look at your goals. Important to have those goals down. If it's not on paper, it's really just a platitude. It's not important. So have a plan, have those goals visible, even if you've got them stuck to your bathroom window or stuck to your laptop screen. Have those goals visible so you know what your purpose is and what you want to achieve. Secondly is talk to a mentor. The biggest thing I think with the journey of entrepreneurship is that it's such a lonely journey. And especially with the fact that we actually all probably, some of us are fortunate to have our businesses open and running and engaging, but we've just come through 5 or 6 months of quite a lot of solitude. And it has really taken its toll, even on the most motivated and bubbly people, those bubbly personalities, it's taken your toll. So it's important to be able to talk to someone, to bounce those ideas, to have someone to just steer us again if we lose course a bit. Another thing is take a break from social media. Oh my goodness, Janine, she's probably going to be hung for that one. But it's important because it's those we sometimes are getting overwhelmed by the information overload that's coming at us. And to be really honest, it's really negative at the moment. There's very little positive spin in the media. And just take a break. Just don't watch the news. Maybe don't look at Facebook as much as we should, so that we can also start to protect ourselves and start to filter out really what we want to have in our lives. Another one is see others as motivational. Important. We all have those people who we aspire to be like, all those great entrepreneurs who motivate us. Read their stories, read their bibliographies, read about them and how they deal with things. Because maybe it could just be that change in focus or that different perspective that will make a huge change to how we are feeling. Another one is to look back at your progress. We so often focus on the things that are going wrong or the things that aren't right in our lives that we very seldom take a moment to sit and contemplate about how far we've come. Those wins in our life, those quick wins in our life, how quickly once we achieve something do we forget about it and think about how we need to move on to the next thing that we are wanting to achieve. It's good to be ambitious, but maybe we do need to sit down and pat ourselves on the back sometimes. Also, to move on from your failure. Now, failure is such a bad word. We've always been taught, to fail is not a good thing. But it's also our mindset around failure. If the thing is, failure teaches us many lessons, and it's our ability in our quest for that mental toughness is how quickly we respond to a failure and how we recover from it. Because the way we recover is the way that we are going to be set for success. So once again, move on. Don't harp on it. It's taught us something and it needs to be forgotten and learned from. Right. So moving on. So what you believe, where is your source of power? You'll probably see that from my presentation, I have quite a few quotes and I have quite a few motivational sayings, and it's how I motivate myself. I often have these stuck all over the show and I keep them. If I see one, I save it on my phone. And when I'm really needing to dig deep and find that next bit of oomph to carry on, I often will look through my motivational quotes and find something. So life begins at the end of your comfort zone. Oh, wow. That takes us back to that developing that mental toughness again, is to face our fears. And there another saying, you will never achieve anything great in your life until you start believing that something inside you is bigger than the circumstances you face. Wow, what a powerful saying. And for me, this is so important that we step beyond. And I know it's tough, and I know every day can be a huge challenge, but finding those practical ways to deal with it. And there I've listed some really crucial points and something for us to take away today. And maybe sometimes we know these things, but it's important that we revisit them in order just to refresh ourselves and remind ourselves of why we're here. So set a personal mission statement. Wow, how powerful is that? We've heard about mission statements for our business. We've heard about mission statements for a long time in the business world. But how about a personal mission statement for us? How would that keep us focused? And how would that make sure that we focus on the positivity of our lives instead of the negativity? The second is make a plan. If we have a plan and we know what that plan is, we remain focused, we're able to keep our goals in view, and also remind us daily of where we're going. It's not that we're just going to mumble along and find a way to get back on the journey and get lost and come back. We'll have a plan. So everyone's really, really quiet. And please, if anyone thinks that they have any other ideas that they can share with us this morning, it's all about sharing and it's all about learning from each other and how we find ways to practically motivate ourselves. Secondly, or thirdly, or fourthly, is set time for yourself. How important that is. And set a routine for yourself. And I think life at the moment is becoming faster and faster because actually there's no distinguish between our personal lives and our business lives. They've seemed to have just merged into one continuous life. So we need to set boundaries for ourselves, for our business partners, for our people we engage with. And one thing I've found incredibly powerful is in the morning when one wakes up is to set a routine for yourself. Set that time where you maybe meditate, you maybe read an inspiring article, just to get you in the zone and also just to help you and motivate you for that day, because you are the orchestra of your own life and you're the one in control of motivating yourself and keeping yourself positive. So I think very important. Another one we have there is plan ahead and set reminders. Life is fast. Forget things. But how important it is to maybe block in our diary or our calendars that time for ourselves, that time when we're going to go invest in ourselves, develop our knowledge, like the mental gym, go and visit our mental gym by reading those motivational articles, maybe taking a couple of courses just to keep ourselves motivated and in the zone and keep ourselves developing. Another one we might do is set some rewards. Oh, wow. We set rewards for our family. We set rewards for our children, even our employees. But do we set rewards for ourselves? I've achieved this today. I'm going to go and give myself 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and I'm going to do this. So important, because ultimately it's looking after our mental fitness and our well-being in this journey that we're on. So I don't know if anyone else has got any other ways that they find that they can give themselves rewards. I'd like to hear from anyone through the chat line. It's always good to hear how people reward themselves, because I think we're so busy working. As entrepreneurs, we're working 10, 12 hours a day. There's very little time sometimes for rewards. Another one is to engage with friends. Well, that's been a bit challenging over the last couple of months, especially with even now with us going down to a lower level in lockdown. It is difficult to engage, but we don't always have to engage face-to-face with friends and family and mentors and business coaches. We can actually engage over the phone. We get so caught up in our lives that maybe we do forget to connect. So how about setting some time, even in your calendar, is to connect. Make this your connect time or your connect spot, where you can contact someone, see how they're doing, bounce some ideas, and generally keep in touch and motivate yourself. Daily mantra. There's a wonderful thing. Thank you very much. A mantra. Yes, I actually have a mantra that I do repeat to myself. And actually at the moment, for the last couple of months, it's stay calm and keep going. So that was my mantra that I was using, is stay calm and keep going, because it is very easy to get overwhelmed. Another one I have on that list is indulge in some inspirational activities. You know, we have enough negativity in our lives and enough challenges in our lives that I think it's so important for us to take time to spend those quality moments. And that's why I take us back to that routine in the morning. You know, you can't jump out of bed and get to the laptop and get going, but rather take some time to spend doing those inspirational activities, because it's the mental gym and the physical gym that actually is going to make us tough and keep us strong in this quest to keep going. So we move on, the power and the factor of will. So another very important focus for me is, how strong is your focus? And note the pun there, but to be incredibly focused is sometimes very, very difficult. And another saying, a motivational quote there is, life is either daring adventure or nothing. So once again, the power and the control lies with you as individuals, lies with us as entrepreneurs. How are we going to either make this life and this journey an adventure or do nothing at all? But you might say to me, yes, Janine, this is all good and well, but like, how do we manage the stress? And how do we manage the anxiety? I mean, every day we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We can't plan. everything is in turmoil in the world. And how can we keep on top of everything? And there's another mantra coming through: all is well, everything is improving, and I'm in a state of love, joy, peace, and gratitude. Thank you very much, Karen. That is another powerful one. So you see the power of the mantra and the power of the self-talk. Remember, I said to you, self-talk, don't underestimate it. It is crucial to keep us focused. So how do we manage stress and anxiety? Well, I see the first one there is exercise. Now, as entrepreneurs, we work 10, 12, 14, 16 hours a day. And what I'm finding is, and I said to someone, is I live at work at the moment because my client wants me to be available from 6 in the morning. And actually, that's just a question that's come in from one of our webinar viewers, Renee. She says, when I'm working from home, I feel like I'm always available for my clients. How do you suggest I manage my clients' expectations? So how was that? She was reading my mind. Yes, so we are actually in the position now where we feel we live at work. And I think this is really, and I must admit personally, I've really found this incredibly difficult, because the phone or the messages would start at 6 o'clock in the morning and they would carry on on Friday at 9 o'clock at night. Whereas ordinarily, everyone would have had those boundaries and everyone would have probably gone home to enjoy a lovely weekend. And what I've had to do is I've constantly had to manage and purposely manage my calendar. So there I say exercise is that I put it in my diary, I put it on my phone, and after those 15 minutes in the morning, what I'd say is that's my time. I don't answer my phone. I don't look at anything when I open my eyes. I have that cup of coffee. I sit on the veranda and I clear my mind and motivate myself. Thereafter, for the next 45 minutes, I take those dogs for a walk who have been driving me mad, and I spend that time getting some fresh air, getting some time to reinvigorate myself. And also for that time to calm myself down, because life is becoming more stressful. We're becoming more reactive. So it's very important. And what I do is if a message comes through from my client on that wonderful WhatsApp, or the phone is ringing at 6 o'clock in the morning, I politely reply and say, I will be available to get back to you at X time. And more than often, that client replies back and says, sure, Janine, catch up with you later. So I think it's also us feeling that we have to react and we have to respond to everybody's need to be there and available now. So it's so important, guys, that we find that time. I've consciously had to do it and find time to exercise my mind and my body. Another one on that list is separate your work and your sleep. So what happened when we were all thrown into lockdown? A lot of us never had home offices. Remember, we spent our lives at the office. I put my desk in my bedroom. I'd have some quiet time. But then I found that I lived in my bedroom. So I, within a month or so, realizing that actually Janine was never leaving her bedroom, except maybe, actually, no, they used to bring me my dinner. They used to bring me some tea. I would never leave my desk. I then decided to move my office or my desk out of my bedroom, finding that time that this is work time and this is sleep time and this is exercise time and this is inspiration time. And even if necessary, to color code that diary and to time manage, because it's important. We're the ones who are managing our time. Besides getting to do what our clients want, but we are the architects of our time. Secondly is upload your to-do list or unload. Upload it, yes, that's good, but unload the to-do list. Because sometimes on that to-do list is things that maybe could be put off to another day, could be prioritized, could be moved to a less than has to do now, because everything's important. And in my life, everything has to be done now. But humanly, is it possible? Not at all. Secondly, or finally, is set aside a catch-all day. So in my daily life at an office, my Mondays were my days when I'd catch up on all my admin and catch up on all the reports I'd have to write. Well, it's no different now that we're maybe working remotely or we're sitting at a home office. Set time, use the diary management. There's wonderful tools, there's wonderful places to go where they can show you how to manage your diary. I've found a couple of them on YouTube. And it's amazing how when you start to diarize those times in your diary, that nothing compromises with that time. So definitely unload your to-do list and build and set aside a catch-all day with those little things that you could do quickly. Another one is to build systems based on your strengths. So often some of us are not very structured. It's always the life of an entrepreneur to be structured. Some of us don't like admin, but find a method that works for you. So for instance, I used to color code. I used to just block things in my diary, all one color, but now in order to prioritize, I actually color code those blockings. So I'll block some inspirational time as maybe pink because that's self-love time, or I'll put something that's urgent in another color. And I actually now manage my diary in an array of colors that mean something to me and also give me the comfort that I'm actually achieving things. And if anything else comes in onto that list while I'm trying to do something else, I now have a polite way of saying I can attend to it at this time. So with all of this, it's so important that as entrepreneurs and as mothers and fathers and wives and partners is that we always remain and keep the mindset of a champion, because a champion believes in looking after themselves. They believe in achieving. And it's so important that we live lives like champions who have a goal, be it whatever goal it is. And we plan and we have a daily routine that supports that goal. So to be that champion is so important because it drives us to think like a champion. A champion be it a champion athlete, be whatever champion you want to choose it to be. If it was an athlete, they would have time to exercise, time to mentally prepare, time to talk to their sports psychologist, time to make sure that they're strong. So we need to also adapt to having that champion mentality as well as leading like a champion. And I think some of the practical tools that I've given for us there is communicate effectively to your staff, your employees, your business partners. It's been so hard through lockdown that actually one becomes almost withdrawn. But it's so important that we actually find time to actually win and talk to each other, especially with our teams who are now working maybe remotely. This is the time as leaders and business owners that we really need to be communicating effectively. Another thing to lead our teams and to be a good leader is to actually provide positive feedback. It's so often the only time you hear from the boss or the leader is when you haven't done something, or you've done something wrong, or you've done something that they didn't like. How about changing that mentality as business leaders and business owners and actually giving the positive feedback or just providing that feedback? Because it's so important that we focus on positivity. Remember, the comeback must be stronger than the setback. Yes, that's a lovely saying as well. It's that, once again, taking you to the very first slide that I shared, is developing that mental toughness. Because contrary to popular belief, we're not born with it, but we definitely can develop it and acquire it. Secondly, is give your team members a reason. Give them a reason to remain positive. Give them a reason to support you. Give them a reason to carry on. And unlike most entrepreneurs and most bosses and team leaders and managers, they'll say, oh, but it's money. But it's not always money. Think of other ways that we can actually motivate our staff. Motivate them, because just as you're feeling overwhelmed and anxious and stressed, there's a good chance that so is your team. Another one is reward great work. So much is happening behind the scenes, especially in this way that we are working now. Think, and maybe it's to contact your clients, find out how Janine is doing. Are they happy with things? And find out how your team is delivering and how your team is working with your clients so that you are able to actually reward great work. Lead by example. This is once again the crux of this whole webinar today, is how we as entrepreneurs and as leaders look after ourselves firstly, so that we can lead like a champion and we can lead by example. Another thing that's also very interesting and very difficult sometimes to do as entrepreneurs, because we've got this business, it's our baby, no one can tell us what to do, no one can change our minds, but it's motivating our workers by entrusting them with decision-making powers and the opportunity to handle business tasks on their own. So often we want to micromanage, we want to totally control things, and it's becoming a little bit more difficult, especially in the environment in which we work. So we also need to make sure that we are developing the mental fitness and the mental ability and agility in our teams as we are developing ourselves. So that's really the thoughts I had around developing our mental toughness and having the mindset of a champion and keeping ourselves motivated. So for me, with hearing all those wonderful points, which I thought I'd provide us with, and those tools to add to our toolkit of coping in our daily lives, and some questions from the floor and from our listeners as to maybe the challenges they are having or the coping mechanisms that they have in place, that I have the ability to share with everyone, so that we can also learn from each other in these times that we are facing. So definitely, as Renee said, is managing those client expectations and controlling our environment. So important. Any further questions from our team or from the listeners today? Another thing is, don't forget those daily mantras, as well as not forgetting those 3 C's. And I don't know if anyone can remember them. I'm hoping that someone will remember those 3 C's. And let's see if the listeners today can, if nothing else you take away today is remembering those 3 C's that will help us develop our mental toughness in this time. Okay, and control. Very good. Control, commitment, and confidence. Yes. So at least I have something to know that I've taken away and you've taken away today. Because if you think of those 3 words, control your environment, control your calendar, control how you react, control your emotions, control your responses. Commitment, how you remain focused, how you remain committed not to be inundated with negativity, how you remain committed to be focused to your plan, to your actions. And then the confidence that will come from those 2, control and commitment, that you have the ability and you're confident because you're in control and you know exactly where you're going. So well done, everybody. And another thing is, maybe someone can tell me, is in that mental toughness and leading like a champion and looking after ourselves, what do you believe is probably the most important thing that we as entrepreneurs need to be able to do? And you probably have all different views, but I'd love to know what you think is the most crucial part of this journey of motivation. So I'm waiting to see what's going to come back. It's a tough one, I know, but I think you all have it at the tip of your tongue, so I'm sure that you'd be able to tell me what's the biggest and the most important ability that we need to have as entrepreneurs and as individuals in the times we live in. All right, so I'm going to help you out. And for me, in all of this, is the ability to move on, the ability to adapt, and the ability to change. Many years ago, stay motivated and manage negative self-talk. Adapt. Yes, of course. Thank you, Renee. Thank you. Thank you very much for that previous stay motivated and manage negative self-talk. Do you know, many years ago, perseverance is another one. Thank you very much. Yes, many years ago, I was going for a job interview, and one of the questions I was asked, and I said, my ability to adapt. And they looked at me with like, oh my goodness. And I said, because through my life, I've needed to change almost daily. I've needed to change course. I've needed to change careers. I moved from the UK to South Africa. I needed to readjust my thinking. I needed to change everything. But the ability to adapt is definitely a very powerful one, because we can change direction, strategy, and focus at a moment's notice, because then it allows us to move on. So perseverance, definitely. I love the self-talk. I think it's very powerful. So in the event that we don't have any questions from anyone, I really would like to make sure that we who attended today, and thank you very much for taking this time out. You've invested in yourself. You've invested in your mental gym and your self-development. And as I said to many of the entrepreneurs who I have had the wonderful privilege of coaching over the years, is that you will go and work out at a gym. You'll go and take some time for yourself. But do you ever take any time to develop your mental gym? And this is part of growing and developing our mental toughness and our mental strategies and coping. So thank you, everyone, for attending. I really hope that you've enjoyed this presentation and you found it empowering. Please look out for your free Shifting Gears handbook and the download link, which will be sent after this webinar. And I wish you well, and I look forward to hearing great things from you all and seeing great things from everyone. So take care, keep smiling, and keep adapting.